Yeah, introducing yourself to the child as well. I think that took time as well, and also look at background as well. You know, is her father around? What's the relationship with?
Part of the culture, but we ain't part of the culture. Still making it rain, but a little words like ain't soaking. Them man there, some them man there. We say we don't know them. Always chatting about Lengo, roll with the stick and have to outgrow them. You see this life, only get one, don't get twice. Got a value with treated right. Find purpose, meaning, fight. That's destiny calling. Ring, 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 ring. We accept the warning.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to, what's the name of the show, Nicky? What's the name of the show today?
Faith and Finding Love.
And you know, we're back here in season 2, episode what?
4.
Episode 4. In this episode, people, we're going to be discussing the process of dating a woman with a child or multiple children. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll go by the name of Christian Adam, aka The Bachelor, aka London Kings, in the building. And my co-host,
I'm just Mickey. I'm just Mickey, like.
my co-host, Mickey, in the building.
Awesome.
Also known as Brother Michael. You know, if you need some spiritual advice. What are you telling me, bro?
I ain't got nothing to tell you. Anyway, so
we got a special guest in the building today.
we've got a friend here called Paul, and he's got a wonderful story that he would like to share with us, and we've got some questions, obviously, to put his way. Paul, welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Should we start? I mean, I'm gonna shake your hand too, man. We'll slide right through there. Tell us a bit about yourself, brother. You know, what's in a snapshot. What's your story, but also what you do. What's your passions in life? Yeah, just something to connect with the people.
All right. Okay. So I'm a proud father of 3.
Amen.
Married. I'm in medicine, respiratory and sleep medicine.
Sorry, repeat that again.
Respiratory and sleep medicine.
Oh, wow.
So I specialise with kids and adults with sleeping conditions and breathing issues.
Oh wow. Okay.
Passions. I mean, men fellowship.
Nice.
I'm Christian. I'm a believer. Men's fellowship is something that young people mentoring, youth work, something that I have a passion for. In my own job. Sleep medicine and respiratory is also something that I'm passionate for. I love that profession.
Tell us a bit about the youth work that you do. That's a real big, it's a big one for you.
So I mean, it's church youth work.
Okay.
And again, just as you go through life and you meet people, you meet parents, perhaps they might have a problem with their child or concern, and it's really being that middleman or that vessel where they can really speak to the youth, speak a language that they can understand. And that's, I guess, in that way, building relationship, building intimacy, you're able to, try to set the best example and teach them certain ways as well, and, the best you can inspire them.
That's beautiful. And you said you're a father of, you said
3.
Of 3.
Yes.
What's the most rewarding thing about being a dad to you, personally?
The most rewarding thing? Sometimes sometimes it can be simple things, having a tough day at work or a long day, and then coming in and, open your door and kids are just shouting, "Daddy, daddy, daddy." Everybody wants to hug you, or, you're on the sofa, all of a sudden, 3 of the kids are on the sofa, cuddled up close to you and stuff like that, So those are the rewarding stuff. The care, the concern of the kids. It builds you as a man, as a husband. So, these are the small, simple stuff.
That's beautiful. We love that. We love that. So, Paul, as you know, today we're discussing a subject I think is very close to your heart personally, a subject that you have a lot of experience in your personal life. We're talking about the process of sort of dating a woman with a child or with multiple children. So I'd like just to think back to almost the beginning of the dating journey with your now wife. The question really is, how does dating change when you're involved with a woman with a child or with multiple children? What adjustments are necessary? So I guess when you first dating your now wife, what are some of the differences you saw compared to maybe dating in the past women who didn't have children, and what kind of adjustments did you have to make at the beginning in the dating process?
I think as well that's I think it's a slower process.
Okay.
Of really trying to understand each other, understand the relationship, obviously dating, you probably have more complex discussions at an earlier and more intense questions at an earlier stage. Also, it's just being there and just interacting. I think that's probably the best thing to do.
So would you say because she had a kid, you took things way slow?
Definitely slower. The process is definitely slower. Introducing yourself to the child as well. I think that took time as well. And also to look at background as well. You know, is her father around? What's the relationship with her dad? You know, what's the relationship between the person that you're dating and her ex-partner? What were the circumstances of breaking up? All of these things. So you probably get into more complex conversations due to the weight and the gravity of having a child as well. Knowing that you can't afford to, it's not really trial and error. You have to be intentional.
Right? Talk on that.
I think that's it.
So I mean, just like Mickey said, talk on two things if you can. You first of all, you said that you were having, it's an interesting word to use, you were having intense conversations. And then you mentioned just now about being intentional in your engagement. Just talk a bit about what you mean by intense conversations and being intentional in that process.
So I mean, I think the first thing that as you're in a relationship, is, you know, is this relationship going somewhere? What are the goals? What are going to ahead? I think that's probably the first thing that you have to discuss. And what is your role going to be as well? If you're going to come into this child's life, what is your role going to be? You know, are you going to be that person you're going to take the father figure? Are you going to be someone that just supports the mother? Are you going to support the partner? Are you going to come as a collective, as a family? So I think these are questions in which you have to discuss as well.
How did you manage not just going with the flow? Because I've got a few friends that have gotten with young ladies that have kids. And, you know, they just go with the flow and then they meet the kids. My boy would create a connection with the kid, and then something happens, and then, you know, mum and my boy would have to separate. And, you know, and then because they've separated, it's not just them separated, it's him leaving, not just the woman, but also the kid. He has to leave that relationship aside. How did you manage not just going with the flow? And how did you said something about being intentional as well. Like, so was you intentional from the very beginning, or did you learn how to be intentional as you was dating?
I think it's a bit of both. I think my character, I think I was intentional. You know, I understand that originally having this relationship, and even before it was a relationship, a friendship, being introduced to the child at 1 year old. So whilst that is all going on, I always liked her. You know, I always had the
see the smile on your face, man, when you said it. A man really said that from his heart, you know. It's like, always like that.
Yeah, so I had a hot for her anyway. So, you know, some people will think that I was friend zoned for a period, but with that,
that's another podcast.
That's another podcast.
But also it gives time to develop relationship.
Yes.
And to see whether this is going to move forward. You know, that you don't rush into something. I think, as you mentioned, going with the flow can be a bit dangerous, you know, because it's not just your heart that you're dealing with. There's three hearts that you're dealing with, you know. So I think you're certainly being intentional. No, there's a big
powerful. I've got one more question, and I'll pass over to Nicky to run through his. You know, just staying with the subject of the adjustments that you have to make. A good close friend of mine has dated a woman with children in the past, and one of the challenges that he always mentioned was adjustments he had to make in terms of her time, right? So one of the things that came up was he felt that in the relationship her child always came first, and he felt to some degree he was put on the back bench in terms of her time, and him having dated women without children, he always had access always had direct time to her. How did you navigate? I don't know if that was an issue when you got together, but maybe it was. How did you navigate that adjustment?
It's a good question. Sometimes you've got to look at background and support system. I was fortunate that she had a really good support system. She had a mother, a dad, her sisters. So again, if we wanted to go on a date, we could. Exactly. Yeah. So a child could go with a grandma. So at least, but I can understand that. Dating is essential, isn't it? Taking time for yourself. And I think what kids do as well is that when you do have children at such an early stage, is that sometimes that is neglected. Date time, personal time together, to create that connection and vibrant intimacy.
Yeah.
So again, it's been intentional as well. You've got planned dates. So whilst you're probably young and single, where you could just go off on a whim and just, let's go out tonight, let's go. You just have to be intentional. You have to book a date and and arrange childcare.
Can't do them spontaneous things anymore.
Can't do the spontaneous things.
All right.
As much. Yeah.
I mean, I remember, because I'm a dad myself, and I remember speaking to a mentor, and he said to me that, before you even bring a woman to your child or your child to a woman, make sure it's 100% serious and there's an intentionality behind it. But, make sure they've got a time stamp on it. Make sure it's a year later, that it's a year that you've taken to know that person, their character, and whether they qualify to be around your children or your child. So I guess the question I'm asking is, like, what advice would you give someone entering into a relationship with someone with a child? What steps? You talked about intentionality earlier on, kind of thing. So kind of give them a little bit of a guide on how to approach these things, how to approach that relationship, and dating.
I think it will be slow. Take your time. Don't rush. In my circumstance, it took 3. So we were friends, dating for 3 years before we became serious. So I had 3 years where I built relationship with my stepdaughter. So I think that's what you have to do. You have to take your time, and also take in consideration in the future the role that you're going to take, the example that you're going to set. And I think within that period, you've got time to really, the person that you're dating's got time to judge your character. You've got time to look at the situation, also judge the situation that you're in, and see whether it's right for you as well. And as I mentioned before, you'll be aware that there are 3 hearts that you're dealing with. Like I said, it takes a level of sensitivity.
Yeah. Okay, so you said, I said earlier that one of my mentors said, I should give it a year before I even bring a woman to my child, or a partner to my child. How long would you say you guys gave it, or what would you even advise someone that's stepping into such a situation?
I think a year depends what active you are in that year. Regards to what are you guys doing together? Are you guys going bowling together? Are you guys going to cinema together? Are you guys going to play groups together to create that?
Would this be with kid in tow, or is this just you and the person dating?
I think, again, you should give it a while to both of you just to develop that intimacy first.
Yeah.
And
so focus on just you two first, then bring the child.
Yes, and within that time, you have to have that complex and intimate conversations and tough conversations. Really knowing yourself, knowing the lady that you're interested in. And also time will tell in regards to certain scenarios, and we'll also look at character in regards to how you behave in these scenarios. So it's really a judge or test of character as well, before anything. And then when you get into introducing yourself to the child, there's play dates. You know, it starts like that, having fun, to a point where, you know, the child probably asking for you. Oh, where is he? I haven't seen him for a while.
Yeah.
Develop that friendship. You know, there's so many things, as I mentioned, that you can do. You know, bowling.
Yeah.
You know, cinema, all of these things. You know, so it's all intentional.
Yeah.
But it's all relational.
Yeah, yeah.
Building that relationship, that rapport, for them to also look at your character and you theirs as well.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you're talking about complex conversations. Were there any it's a little bit personal, but were there any complex conversations concerning the baby daddy or anything like that?
I mean, I was very, very fortunate to a point where he was around, but he wasn't invasive in personal spaces. It wasn't at all. And he spent time with his daughter. He wasn't absent, he was present. Respectable guy. So it was the transition was quite easy, but the only reason why it's easy is because if you carry yourself a certain way, and he will look at your character. Because I met him a few times even whilst we were dating. He assessed me. He asked me a few questions. What do you do for a living? You know, so it's when you know that your child is safe, then you can take a step back. So it's also looking and judging the character on, okay, I trust that she will not let any man just enter the house. You know, so it's also just.
So do you think it was giving you a DBS check?
Of course, and I was, you know,
checking your credentials.
Of course, and I mean, I was doing the same as well, isn't it? I also want to know, you know, what happened. You know, what happened, what were you interested in? All of these type of questions as well.
Yeah.
So it's vice versa, really.
You know, it's interesting because it ties into sort of the question that comes up next, which is really, like, how did you navigate the boundaries with your partner's child, while respecting their role as a parent? So tell you about the friend of mine who did date, you know, a single mom. One of the things that came up about boundaries was, for example, are you allowed to discipline your partner's child? And, you know, people have different views on that. You know, certain parents might say, don't you dare touch my child, right? I'm the only one that can discipline them. Well, other ones might be, actually, now that you're in the space and, you know, we're together, you are their father. You can. Did that ever come up in kind of your...
I think that's part of the complex conversations and intimate conversations. You're also looking at her character as well, to see whether it's something that you can do. And also, you need to set boundaries and have a discussion and goes, okay, this is the role that I wish to take. As moving forward, you know, the future, possibly having more kids, all of these type of things. So I think it's having those complex conversations from early. And I think it's easier when you are growing together. Right? So as you grow together, it happens more naturally, really. And also, if you're a disciplinarian, you know, I mean, I would say I have a warm heart. So the way I will treat her, in my mind, I think I'm going to treat her like I would treat my own. And I was very much like that from the get-go. And I was clear in that in the conversation.
Okay.
So in regards to discipline, it was I'm treating you like my own.
So in that example there, your now wife at the beginning was comfortable with you being able to, let's say, you needed to apply some discipline to your daughter. I mean, I'm trying to get to the specific answer.
I think that's why, you know, the fundamental foundations are just judging, looking at character, assessing character, having these complex conversations, looking at how they react in certain scenarios. All of these things will kind of give you an insight on if these things occur, what will happen. So, I mean, none of these things I've been vocal from the get-go. So, and I've taken that role from the get-go.
Okay.
And I was very much, look, if this is our child, and this is how we're going to do it. If there's anything that you're not happy with, please let me know. You know, and I think you all have relationships where, you know, they're very defensive. This is my child. Now, again, that's another conversation. Where are we going?
Yeah.
Where are we going with this? Where are we going? Are we having more children? Because I can't be, it's injustice to treat one
child
way.
different. So it's like, okay, you can't discipline my child, but we've had other children. Okay, we're going to treat them differently.
Exactly.
It doesn't make sense.
That's not going to make sense, and it's not setting a good example either. And you know, take that child will probably be the eldest as well.
Yeah.
And you don't want conflicts against siblings as well. You want it to be everyone. You know, happy family, isn't it?
Yeah.
Loving family. So yeah, that's an example. 100%.
Yeah. And you hate the term blended family, did you say?
I don't hate the term. It's just something that I was never kind of. I think that's a kind of new age blended family. I think we've become more aware of that now. You know, but as I said, I started early, so I wanted a family of my own. So I'm gonna take that role, even though she's not my biological daughter. That's the role I'm going to take as a father. Yeah.
Wonderful. And then blending finances. Like, again, that must have been one of those tricky conversations at the beginning.
Yeah.
And then obviously stepping into marriage.
Yeah.
So how do you manage that? I guess because
also,
you're one family, you don't even, it's just money for the family.
Yeah, but also it's the role that you want to take from early. So you have to be clear in regards to, you know, are you just going to be mum's partner? Or are you going to be a family? I'm going to take that role in. And also part of the complex conversations is, you know, career, where do you see yourself in the future? How are you with finances? What do you want to do with finances? So sometimes you find that it's an advanced course. These questions are an advanced course because it's such an important thing with lives. So these conversations need to be done from early.
Does she have access to your credit card and your debit card?
She does.
She does, and you just, that's cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
You okay with that?
Yeah, everything blessed on that.
Everything's blessed on that.
Do you have access to her credit card?
I certainly do. Yeah.
Vicky, one of them ones where
trust me.
What's yours is mine and what's mine is mine.
If it works both ways, then you're blessed.
We're blending the finances,
Exactly.
like Mickey
If it's
said.
not, then I'm sure I'll have something to say about that.
You know them Christmas times is techie when you know you see Harrods on the credit card.
Yeah.
You see that tap 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 tap.
Yeah. But me, I'm kind of old school, man. I'm just, if I don't have the money, then it is what it is. I don't even own a credit card, so
Yeah.
But it's you know we're joking about this, but it's an important conversation. You know, often partners don't often have conversations about finances because it's seen as not being sexy.
Yeah.
Like at what point did you have to, how early should men be having this conversation about, let's talk about our finances. If we're going to actually be together, you've got a child coming up, I've got my own children coming in the future. Like at what point does it make sense to have that conversation?
Yeah, I think before, I said, looking at character, looking at how they spend money, have they got a good credit report? I know that's more of an American thing, looking at that.
Speak more on that.
Yeah.
Should you be doing background checks on your partner's credit history? Because there's some people out here that
Trust me.
Yeah, you have to check these things.
Trust me.
I mean, ultimately, it will be affecting you as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you don't check. So if you don't have that conversation, it will affect you. Whether it be you guys plan to buy a house, a car, all of these things. As you get married and all these things. So these things will affect you. If you don't have those conversations, they'll probably come up and bite you. That's how life is. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, Paul, thank you for coming by. Really appreciate it. I mean, you gave us some gems there, something for Chris to go away and think about. Because he's the bachelor, he takes all comers, so
Yeah,
really appreciate your time and
We wrapping up already. I was really getting to the conversation, but I see the executive producer doing this.
I see this.
So that means it's time to.
How can we find it?
It's time to. Okay. It's time to wrap it up. Paul, like Nikki said, appreciate you coming through. Drop gems.
How can we find you?
Drop gems.
How can we find you, Paul?
We were gonna ask him that.
I mean,
Sorry.
You wanna come and ask?
We've got our producer in the
coming
background flying questions over. Paul, how can the people get to social media or any sort of
social
platforms
media,
you're on?
Instagram,
Shout out there.
Men's Peace, that's what it's called. It's prayer, purpose and passion. That's what it stands for, and yeah, you can check me out.
So say the name again.
So it's Men's Peace.
Men's Peace.
Yeah.
That's the
Peace.
name.
Yeah.
Cool, cool. And how do we connect with you on the other bits of work that you do, the youth work that you do, the ministry?
Maybe he doesn't want people to connect with him. Or do you mind that? Like,
well, you can find me on LinkedIn.
That's it. That's how we asking the first.
So that's what you do in your professional, like when it comes to the what was it again?
So medicine wise, it's through LinkedIn, but obviously mentoring wise, you'll find me on LinkedIn as well. So,
yeah,
it's beautiful.
Paul, appreciate you coming by from Faith to Finding Love with my incredible co-host Mickey in the building.
Yeah, my own incredible co-host, Mr. Bachelor Christian Adam.
London Kings in the building.
London Kings, come on.
Yeah, that was beautiful, man.
It could be a bad thing. So modern woman is someone that maybe is not traditional or doesn't have the same traditional aspects of what our grandmothers had. So to the opposite to that would probably be traditional, maybe.
How would
Part of culture, but we ain't part of culture. Still making it rain, but I let the words fly in so burn. Them man there, some them man there. We say we don't know them. Always chatting about Lengo, roll with the stick and have to outgrow them. You see this life, only get one, don't get twice. Got a value with treating right. Find purpose, meaning fight.